Curt, good morning and welcome to the MegaCast.
Well, good morning to you. And it's nice to see that we can finally get out and enjoy some restaurants. And it's nice to see that the restaurant owners and the staff are taking things seriously and they're being creative to keep all of us safe.
Yeah, I think both of those deployments are really amazing, very creative, worked out really well, a little bit of creativity and a little bit of fun. Curt, do you have any information, Curt Lawson, West Bloomfield Police Department, do you have any information as to how things went the last couple of days with our establishments and restaurants and retail opening up across the Oakland County area?
So what I've seen right here in West Bloomfield is that it's been kind of a soft opening, a slow opening. Many restaurants have chosen not to open right away. I was actually trying to find a place to eat yesterday. I had a meeting and I wanted to do a lunch, and I had a difficult time finding a restaurant within West Bloomfield where you could physically go and seat yourself. Because I think that there's a lot of procedures and things that the governor has pushed out through our executive orders that have to be in place before they open. So that and the capacity limits, I think everyone's kind of taking it slow, seeing how other establishments that have opened, how they do before they bring all their wait staff back and start having to, pay people if they're not getting the individuals, the residents into their restaurants. So they're kind of a wait and see attitude at this point, I believe.
All right, another really big opening right in your front and right here in West Bloomfield is the West Bloomfield Township Hall is officially opening today. It's been open by appointment the past couple of days. Today is the first official day. The doors are open. People can go in, and we're going to send Erica Jones over there shortly to get an update on how things are going. But it's a big day, and it's symbolic, Curt, of the fact that everyone in West Bloomfield, Oakland County, across the state, and a lot of people across the country have done a really good job helping get all this under control.
Right. And it starts with, the staff already having those procedures in place to keep everyone safe. And I know that the township employees that have been already in place for the last several weeks, they're anxious to, again, engage the public, work face-to-face with people. But like we talked about, those safety precautions are in place. We have the plexiglass. Everyone that comes in at town hall today will have the facial coverings. That's going to be a requirement. Certainly the staff is getting their temperature taken at least twice a day. So our number one priority here in West Bloomfield is trying to keep everyone safe so we don't have, in the fall, have another spike in COVID-19.
Curt Lawson is with us, Public Information Officer, Deputy Police Chief, West Bloomfield, joining us today here on the MegaCast. Dave Scott in our Troy offices and studios, Tyler Keefe in our West Bloomfield studios of Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. We're going to check in a couple of minutes, Curt, with Lauren, who we were talking about at the beginning of the show, has not received her unemployment check since early March. And the state is saying there's some fraud here in the state, and it's taken 300,000+ additional people's unemployment checks, and they're holding them back as they try to explore what's going on in fraud. We had just a little quick conversation a minute ago before we went on the air. Were you able to find out anything about maybe fraud cases on unemployment going on in West Bloomfield?
Actually, I was, and I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. So, we have fraud here in West Bloomfield. We've always had it. We're very fortunate that our detective bureau is large enough and they have the technology that many times they can follow up on these frauds and they can come up with suspects and we can bring people in and have them prosecuted for defrauding our residents and people that visit our community. As far as fraud currently with unemployment checks, we've actually seen quite an uptick in the last 2 weeks. We've had 20 of those, and they just keep rolling in. So we'll be following up with that, but certainly it's something on our radar at this point.
I hate it. I mean, it's the people that are doing that, low life to the greatest degree, because they're preventing people like Lauren from getting their unemployment checks. They're just taking a terrible situation and for their own advantage, making it worse for everybody. Curt, put them in jail and just forget about them.
Well, we will certainly do our part.
I'm sure you're going to give them their due process, but it's very frustrating. That said, people like Lauren should still be able to get their checks, and we're going to talk to her in a couple of minutes. Before we say so long, obviously a huge day in West Bloomfield on Friday. Protests not only in our community, but all across Oakland County and across the state of Michigan. And Curt, the protest Friday was incredibly peaceful. I thought everyone handled themselves well. Speeches from a number of people, including Chief Patton, as everyone united in a big circle at the West Bloomfield campus property at the end of the walk. The walk was great. A ton of young people out, and I thought things went very very well, and a lot of folks that hadn't had the opportunity to understand the impact of this issue, I think, got a chance to experience that. Your thoughts?
Well, I totally agree with you. The event went very well. It was a great rally. They had more people show up than they really expected. I think realistically they thought there'd be 150 to 250. We had close to, I think, 600 individuals there. And, you know, as you and I walked through the crowd and we talked to people and we were able to engage in conversation, you know, you had the Chaldean community, the Jewish community, the African American community, you had our residents, you had the business owners, everyone coming together for the same cause. And it really went smoothly and it was a great success. And I really, in my career, I've been here 25 years, and I will never forget some of the conversations that I had with individuals during that rally as we walked from Maple and Orchard to the police department, listening to individuals and their concerns in regards to the African American community, their history, their problems that they've encountered with law enforcement. It was a great conversation, and I was glad I was able to walk with them and to be able to listen to them.
It's begun a dialogue, Curt, and thank you for your thoughts. It's begun and created dialogue on how we can look at policing in a new way in our country. And the headlines, as you well know, are "Let's defund police departments." As that conversation becomes less emotional and more rational and hands-on, discussions have been taking place about being able to respond to the challenges in the community with folks other than police officers. And to some degree, that makes an awful lot of sense. The police officers, frontline police officers, respond to so many things that have nothing to do with a conventional crime. Is that frustrating for you? And do you feel that somehow, as we take a look at policing in our country, that there might be some change in the mix of how first responders are helping people when they call 911?
Well, that's a great question. I could talk about that for about a half an hour, but what we need to do is we need to align the police priorities with the community priorities. We have to fully understand what the community expectations are of us. And currently, the reality of the situation is that our law enforcement officers are asked to deal with people with mental illness, people with special needs, the whole gambit of they really need to have a lot of expertise in many different areas. And my concern nationwide is that we have not recruited and brought on the best people that we need to in law enforcement in a nationwide scope. I think here in West Bloomfield, we have a great blueprint of what we bring in these very educated officers that represent our community. We are training them in implicit bias, de-escalation techniques, special needs training, mental health training. And we want them to go out there and not just write tickets and make arrests, because what is that exactly solving? We want to go out and solve problems. And that's the way we look at it here in West Bloomfield. And I think that is what we need to do nationwide. Is the law enforcement has to be set up, restructured so they solve community problems. And maybe that means that you're bringing on psychologists, social workers to help you do that. But you definitely have to partner with others in your community to solve problems. And I just want to make one more comment. Totally on board with police reform. I think it's needed, but really, we as leaders need to figure out, how we're going to make that positive change. And we need to kind of ask, not how long will reform take, but how far we can take reform. So not only do we have to bring on the best officers, but we have to make sure we have the right leaders in place to make these changes.
Well, it's great that the dialogue is going on. Much needed, terrible path to get there. And again, a really inspirational day in West Bloomfield on Friday. And then, as you may know, I often head north for the weekend, and I did that last weekend. And here I am in very rural Charlevoix, Michigan, with a very low minority population. And there are 300 people lining the streets of Charlevoix on Saturday too. And I picked up the phone and talked to friends all over the state, and the scope of this protest nationwide, from not just our large urban centers, not even just suburban areas like West Bloomfield, but literally all over our state and all over our country. Absolutely amazing. I salute all of the peaceful protesters. I also salute the police department and thank you, Curt, for everything you and everyone else is doing in West Bloomfield. And I thank you for joining us today. Good to be with you, and we'll keep the dialogue going.
Great to be here. Have a great day, Dave.